Okay, so this time we're going to look at ROM and RAM, which is like the memory in our microcomputers. Last time we looked at the CPUs and how they process all of the data, so now we're going to look at the memory. So it's quite a short and simple session, this. ROM is read-only memory, and RAM is random access memory. So the way to think of that is your ROM memory in the computer is the memory that doesn't change. So for example, it will have all of your basic operating system on the computers that we're looking at. You can't delete that. If you could delete it, you'd go and turn on the computer and it wouldn't know what to do. So you wouldn't be able to do anything at all with your computer. So your ROM, you need to think of it is the permanent data sat within ROM memory that can't be changed at all. Random access memory, or RAM, that's the bit that we use to constantly change data and constantly change the environment of the computer inside it. Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if we take a quick look at our computer screen here, I've actually managed to find the memory map Here we go. So I've actually managed to find the memory map of the Commodore 64. Okay, and it's a really, really long document, you can see. And most of it won't mean anything to you. But if we look on the left-hand side, you can see that there's two numbers in each block here in the first column. There's a hexadecimal address and there's a decimal address. So this is literally telling you what the 0 byte does in the memory address, and the first byte, what that one does. And here it's even telling you what every bit within the byte does. Okay, so most of the early stuff here is all about the processor and like how the computer actually works. And then as you move down the list, you're going to get to things that maybe you can actually understand a little bit more without much knowledge of how the computers actually work. So if we go here, for example, we've got the screen memory. So this is the address. So you can see bytes 1024 to 2023 is the screen memory. So that's where the data will go to tell the computer what to send to the television. Yeah. You've got basic area and basic ROM stuff, which is all about the operating system that I was talking about. And then we've got two really important parts of memory, which are the VIC video display, where you can control your sprites that you're going to be learning about shortly. So you can actually turn them on, tell them where to appear on the screen. And then further down you've got the SID chip as well, which is your audio. That's the famous SID chip from the Commodore 64. But the point I'm making really is that every single thing that you can do with the computer has to be done in a particular memory address for the rest of the computer to know what the data's for. Because it's going to come across lots of ones and zeros as binary data, but it needs to know, well, what does something in that location represent? Yeah. So you actually have a map for the computer. Now here's a question for you though. If we go right down to the bottom, you can see that it goes up to 65535, yeah, which is 65,000, but we've got 64 kilobytes of RAM. So why have we got 65,000 addresses? Any idea?
No.
No?
What? Is it because some of the computer doesn't, it doesn't need, some of the ones and zeros don't need RAM, maybe?
Hi folks, it's Link here. It was a good question, but the answer was totally wrong. Just look at the confidence with which a father passes on incorrect information to a trusting son, as it has been for millennia. Anyway, the answer is that a kilobyte is actually 1024 bytes, or 4 times 256. And so 64 kilobytes multiplied by 1024 is 65,536. Now you know. Thanks to Peter Leaper for pointing this out to me, and let's use this as an example of how we want to learn on the channel. Fill the comments with advice and insights, and we will both learn quick that way. Anyway, back to the show.
The reason we get that number 65535 is because the address bus which is all of the wires that carry the detail about the addresses, that's actually a 16-bit bus, which means it's got 16 wires. And that means that there are 65,536 different combinations of ones and zeros that you can have if you've got 16 wires. Now you might think, does that mean it's a 16-bit computer? No, it's an 8-bit computer, because the part of the CPU that actually does the calculations for you, that's an 8-bit bus. But in order to be able to tell all of the data, this is where you're going to, and have over 65,000 options, you need to have a 16-bit bus, 16 to the power of 2, giving you enough different combinations. Okay? Yeah?
Yeah.
That was quite a lot. I was blurting that out. Does it make sense?
It makes quite a lot of sense, yeah.
Yeah? Was there any bits that didn't make sense?
Not really, other than I get most of it. I just don't understand why you'd need double the amount of numbers for the bus.
Yeah, okay. So if you only had one wire in your address bus, then you could only tell the CPU, send this piece of data to 2 places. You'd either send it to 0 or 1.
Yeah.
If you had 2 wires, then you've got 4 different combinations that you could have to say this is where you're sending it to. And each time you add a wire, you multiply the number of possibilities by 2. So you know that if you keep going 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, the number gets exponentially bigger. It gets bigger quicker, right? So if you only had 8 bits in your address bus, you'd only be able to go up to 256 different locations to address to. So you need to have the 16 bits. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah? Good. Okay. A little bit technical, but hey, it's good to learn something difficult every now and then. Excellent. Okay, that means it's time to play.